Picture a moment in history when the greatest baseball player in the world is from Omaha, Nebraska. So is the world's best football player. So is one of the best basketball players, and pro football's best rookie quarterback, and one of pro basketball's top rookies. This wasn't just any moment in history. It was 1968, one of America's most tumultuous years. And this wasn't just any place in Omaha, but a single, segregated neighborhood, 1 square mile in size. In the face of discrimination, a generation of black athletes pushed each other to break barriers. They busted stigmas and stereotypes. They put Omaha on the national sports map. World Series MVP Bob Gibson, Hall of Fame tailback Gale Sayers, world-class sprinter Roger Sayers, NBA All-Star Bob Boozer, All-ABA guard Ron Boone, Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Rogers, and pro football's first black starting quarterback Marlon Briscoe. They grew up together. They ate the same pork sandwiches at Skeet's Barbecue. They played the same Sunday pickup games at Kuntz Park. They entered the same theaters and comic book stores on bustling North 24th Street. They comprised the greatest generation of athletes in Nebraska history. In the first half of the 20th century, their families migrated to the Midwest from the Deep South, seeking safer neighborhoods, stronger schools, and better jobs. Their ticket to progress was inside South Omaha's gory packing houses. Boozer's dad clocked in at Armour. Gibson's brother worked at Swift. Sayers' dad worked with Rogers' grandpa at Cudahy. In 1955, Omaha became the #1 meatpacking hub in the world. Blacks often did the most grueling jobs, from the kill floors to the hide cellars. At the end of the day, they returned home reeking of dead livestock. But their paychecks built an economic base for the neighborhood. Their work ethic filtered down to their children. Those future athletes developed a sense of unity and a drive to do better than their fathers. It wasn't easy. As kids, Gibson and Sayers couldn't leave the neighborhood for a gallon of milk. They'd get beat up or run out of Benson or Florence. Peony Park was off limits to blacks. When Boozer swam one day at the downtown YMCA, they drained the pool as he dried off. But the boys had advocates, protectors, fierce community leaders shepherding them through hard days. Women like Mildred Brown, the publisher of the weekly Omaha Star. Men like Josh Gibson, Bob's big brother. After earning a master's degree at Creighton, he started a ragtag baseball team that traveled the Iowa countryside in search of games he couldn't find in segregated Omaha. The boys grew up in those buses, which frequently broke down. They learned to play harder, no excuses. As the 1950s closed, North Omaha had become the most dense, vibrant neighborhood in the city, busting at the seams as black families squeezed into the red-lined near North Side. Meanwhile, the greatest generation was ready to take on the world. In 1960, Bob Boozer won an Olympic gold medal in Rome. In '62, Roger Sayers staked his claim as fastest man in the world. In '64, Bob Gibson beat the Yankees in Game 7 of the World Series. A year later, Gale Sayers scored an NFL record 20 touchdowns as a Bears rookie. Amid all of their success, a paradox bubbled up. Omaha cheered them in uniform, but didn't necessarily want to eat with them or work with them or live next to them. When Gibson bought a house in a white subdivision, his new neighbors tried to run him out. When Boozer tried to build a house on a white street, the developer said no. Frustration simmered. Anger boiled over. In March of 1968, segregationist George Wallace came to Omaha to kickstart his presidential campaign, and a melee erupted at his Civic Auditorium rally. For 3 nights, riots destroyed the storefronts of North Omaha. It was a prelude of tragedy across the country in '68. In April, a gunman struck down Martin Luther King Jr. In June, just weeks after presidential candidate Bobby Kennedy attracted a huge crowd on North 24th Street, he was assassinated too. Those were tough times for the neighborhood. The meatpacking industry collapsed. Police shootings incited more unrest on 24th Street. The city constructed a new interstate through North Omaha. A vibrant culture crashed. But their heroes demonstrated resilience. On October 6, 1968, a Sunday afternoon, Omaha experienced the most extraordinary day in its sports history. Gibson dominated the Detroit Tigers in Game 4 of the World Series. Sayers rushed for 100 yards against the Baltimore Colts, including a stunning 60-yard touchdown. And Briscoe became the first black man in America to start a pro football game at quarterback, all in the span of 3 hours. The greatest generation of Nebraska athletes is more than a sports story. They experienced triumph and pain, fame and fury, glory and heartbreak. More than 50 years later, their careers don't need decoration. The numbers speak for themselves, but the context of their achievement enhances their place in history. For the barriers they have broken and the lives they have inspired, these men of 24th and Glory are honored for their sports prowess and community service.